Make that big boss less special. It ain't no game, but they saying welcome to the second level. Second level.
Hello, Internet, and welcome back to Codename Morpheus, episode 34. And this is your weekly dip into the world of the virtual with myself, Tom, and my buddy, Keegan, where we discuss the last 2 weeks, and we're sticking with basically the last week's worth of PSVR news, new releases, sales. There's a spotlight to be had, and there's also a question at the end of it, too. How are you, man?
I'm proud of you.
You're proud of me?
Because 9 times out of 10, you forget to say our names at the beginning of this.
Yeah, I snuck it in. Did you see that? I snuck it in. So that's us. And we're going to dig in pretty quickly this week. I don't think we have any housekeeping. I mean, other than the fact with the podcasting, we should probably talk about that, right? Should we talk about that? Let's talk about that. So, with the podcast thing, right, you may have noticed
Let's talk about that.
Yeah. It's
Thanks,
like
Rhett and Link.
You may have noticed that we've been kind of here and there and gone and back and kind of all over the shop recently. And it's kind of been
For
this
multiple
weird,
reasons.
Multiple reasons.
I didn't mean to slam my phone down.
It started out, obviously, with a lot of things going wrong in life. And kind of moved on to just being super busy. And that's not a fun thing when you're trying to maintain
It's not a bad thing.
a base. Well, it's not
Means we're always
not-
doing stuff.
not bad. Bad for you, not bad for us.
Yeah.
So the idea here is that I think we've come to sort of a decision that we're probably going to start implementing here over the course of the next couple of weeks, etc., where we are probably going to have these be bi-monthly as opposed
It's
to
2 a month.
every week. That is
Well, we're going to have them every other week, not necessarily bi-monthly.
yeah.
Because there could be 5 weeks in a month.
Reasons
might have
for
3.
you, and before you start groaning and saying, "Oh, you guys suck," whatever.
You already don't keep your own schedule.
Right. To begin with, the reason why we occasionally have these lulls is that we get inundated with a lot of stuff to cover because you are watching a PSVR podcast, presumably because or listening, presumably because you like VR, and that's great. We also, however, have a hard focus on indie games. Our channel is Indie Games of VR. That's what we do. That's what we're good at.
And then us.
And us. So, we got to cater to those guys too. And here's where the rubber meets the road, basically.
We don't do this full time.
We don't do it full time unless you guys want to start paying us. We have to have real jobs. And because of that means that oftentimes we get given keys by multiple developers for VR and for indie. Recently, Ocean Games? I think it's Ocean Games or something like that. I feel like I'm forgetting Oasis.
Oasis
Sounds better.
I was trying to figure out where you're going with that one.
Oasis gave us a couple keys. They gave us the Salaryman key.
It literally got to the point where I go to Tom, I go, I'm going to find an organization app called Wunderlist. By the way, if you need some sort of task manager, highly recommend Wunderlists.
It's a good app.
And you can go through and you can put things like I have a folder full of things. We have coverage for other people, so David's going to do stuff, Bertrand's going to do stuff, and our buddy Blue's going to do stuff. And then we have
has been doing stuff.
And then we have a indie games folder, which as of right now is 6 games deep, and PSVR is right now 2, but it's going to probably grow in the next little while.
Yeah. So what it boils down to is this. I used to be able to, when our show was a little snappier and we just kind of did the quick edit and we were done before we had all this beautiful scenery that you see here. I used to be able to just get the podcast probably all
Link's got
edited.
another key.
Oh, great.
We got it for Tempest 4000.
Oh, cool.
We talked about that. I didn't send details.
We used to be able to knock out all 3 edits in a night and then be good and then not have to worry about it. I can't do that anymore. It takes me a really fucking long time to edit these podcasts together and to give them the polish and shine that you expect. So, that being said, if we have 6 indie keys and 3 VR keys and 4 whatever keys, then we are not having enough time to do the reviews that you guys really enjoyed back when we were doing those and the long no commentary gameplay videos. We never get time to sit down and play a game together anymore. We don't get to do any of that. And we love that. We want to do it more. We want to have more variety on the channel other than just the podcast. The podcasts are always the hub of what we do. However, having a week where we can do the podcast and focus on that and give you a nice, 1 to 2 hour treat of just a ton of information, which will be probably more so because it's going to be a 2-week break instead of a 1-week break. And then, being able to also focus on these keys and do streams with them during the week.
So my goal is every Tuesday that we are not recording, I will be streaming a game. I don't know when during the day. I'm going to try and set a specific time. It all kind of depends on how long it's going to take to get other stuff done. Because like you said, we're using it to record other things.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not like we're not doing anything on that week. It's not like we're just going to take it off. It's like we're just going to be focusing on the keys and actually like putting together reviews.
And I still want to do like there's a video they will never see it, but I made a video like 4 or 5 months ago.
I deleted it already.
Yeah. Called 5 Things I Want to See from PSVR in 2018, and I just never finished it because I didn't have time at the time, and then by the time I did, it already felt dated. So it's like, well, I got to do it again.
Yeah, so I mean, so this is for the sake of like keeping the channel fresh for variety. We're probably going to end up doing it every other week. That's a really long-winded way of saying that. I just felt like you guys were due an explanation of why you're not going to get new content every week as far as the podcasts are concerned.
There will be stuff.
You will get new content every week, but the podcasts are going to be
subscribe to us
every 2 weeks
on level2gamers.com.
Yeah, and it's going to be really
exciting,
guys.
You know what? We could be that person. Hit that bell to see when we go live.
Hit the bell,
videos.
guys.
I hate that.
Yeah, so that being said...
What Culture goes... Or no, Watch Mojo, bing, bing, done. I think it's Watch Mojo or What Culture or somebody. It's like, hit that ding, ding, done.
Yeah.
I hate it.
Yeah, we don't pander to you people. So we just treat you like adults. That's all it is. So yeah, if you love us, you'll stick with us. If you don't, you'll leave. Whatever. We love you. Mwah. Stick with us, please. Moving on to the new releases, of which there is, drum roll, one. One new release.
You better put
his
drum roll sound effect in there.
I might.
Otherwise, it's going to be real weird.
I mean, whatever. Yeah. Is that your? I'll cut that
That's
out.
my Chewbacca.
Put it before.
Yeah.
And that is Hopalong, the Badlands. Hopalong, the Badlands is a Western VR game, as in Wild Western. You are a gun-slinging,
Western guy.
And it is super fucking weird. I'm not going to talk about it a whole lot because it is my spotlight for the week. They were gracious enough to give us a key for that. Thank you to, I think it's From the Future Games. And it's super fun gameplay-wise. It is $25. We'll talk about whether it's worth that or not on the Spotlight section, so stay tuned for that. Sadly, no other new releases this week. And even worse so, moving on directly to the sales, I'm not even going to have a break here because there's no point, really. I feel like, we just started talking,
You have
guys.
a pre-order, though.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Track
we should
Lab
do
pre-order.
that first. So there is a new pre-order that got dropped out in the store, which was Track Lab. If you guys remember, that's the create your own music VR thing, which I'm actually pretty excited about.
It looks really cool.
I'm kind of
If
excited.
there's a way to export that, it'd be even better.
Yeah.
I don't think there will be.
I mean, maybe you could do it directly to the console.
Well, you could always put it up to YouTube and rip it off YouTube.
Yeah.
Is the other thing.
That's $20, by the way, the pre-order for Track Lab. That got announced. But the sales are kind of rolled in because they're not out, right? So they're not sales that you can go and get and then play the game. They're pre-order sales. So there's not really any
Tom
sales.
doesn't consider these sales.
No, so not really. I'm still going to change this over to sales.
Even though it says sales.
But they're pre-order sales. They're not out yet, so...
What's your feeling on that? Are pre-order sales? We had a discussion this morning.
I don't think it counts.
I do.
I don't know.
It's in the sales section.
I mean, maybe. Anyway, there's two. Torn is pre-order. It is $25.50, down from $30, so not exactly mind-blowing, but it's a new release, so that's still pretty cool.
Fun fact on your next sale, your price, you didn't put the sale price. You put the full price.
Sure didn't? That's right, I remember it. So that's kind of, that's neat that they have a sale on it before it comes out.
I thought this said Tom pre-order.
Torn.
Like you
R in
pre-order.
the N can be an M. Yeah,
I thought you pre-order something. I was like, what the fuck did Tom pre-order?
Just reminding myself to pre-order something. No, but
Torn looks really good.
It does look cool.
It looks really good.
Yeah, it looks really, really cool. It's exciting. They just released the free theme for it last week or the week for whatever. I forget.
Otherwise known as a freem.
A free.
It's a free theme.
This is devolving fast. So anyway, Torn does actually look really impressive graphically and interesting wise, and just everything about it so far that they've shown has been kind of impressive. So definitely keep your eyes peeled for that. It's always nice to see the pre-order show up as well, because it kind of reminds you that it really exists. Because a lot of these games, you hear about them and they just don't show up.
The other thing I like about it too is it treats, and I say this all the time, that I think PSVR needs to be treated like normal games anyway. Like you see pre-orders for Spider-Man for months.
Correct.
And you'll see it for third parties for months.
I mean, to be fair, the pre-order for Gollum's been up since the dawn of time, and that still hasn't.
Oh yeah, the game's still not out, is it? Good job, guys.
Anyway, the other one, which is also a really exciting game, pre-order available now, is Pixel Ripped 1989, which I believe, and I did fuck this up in my notes, but I believe it's $20 down from $25 if you pre-order it.
I can confirm.
Go ahead and confirm.
20 seconds.
But yeah, Pixel Ripped 1989 is that weird kind of hybrid VR game where you're like in a VR world, but you're playing like I guess a Game Boy type thing in the VR world. So you actually get to do like this fun retro platformer, but then you will occasionally come out of that and into like an actual environment.
It's $20 on sale. Normally 25.
I was correct. Awesome. Thought I was. So yeah. So Pixel Ripped 1989 already, by the way, getting a few like best of shows and
Comes
stuff.
out July 31st.
Yeah, it shows up in a couple places and gets high praise wherever it goes. So I think we can all be pretty excited about that one. The trailer looked super dope, and we nailed it, by the way. The first time we saw the trailer for it, we didn't know what the game was at all, and we said, it looks like you do this, and then we turned out we were absolutely 100% right. So
that means they
pretty
did the
proud of
trailer
it.
right.
Yeah, exactly. Good on them. When does Torn come out?
Torn comes out August 28th.
Good call.
So,
all right, so there you go.
month.
Torn
Month
and
and a
Pixel Ripped, end of the month / early next month.
Well, no,
Torn's-
it's the end of this month and next
you
month.
said October or August?
August 28th.
Yeah,
And
that's
then
okay.
July
That's-
31st.
I'm scared for any game that comes out around August 13th because they have to contend with Firewall. So I'm just like, VR developers, you may just want to,
It's
bump
like
it.
when Red Dead comes out. Everybody's
Right,
like,
everyone's going to
get out of the way.
Bump it, let it do its thing, let it sit. Try and get it earlier because then it's like
Don't Titanfall 2 it.
feeds you into the big one.
Don't Titanfall 2 it.
Yeah, so Torn, Pixel Ripped, pre-orders, they are on sale technically, but there's no actual games that you could play today sales that are available. So, in my
the
humble
PlayStation
opinion, no sales. Let's take a quick break and then we'll move on to the news.
Level 2, yeah.
And we're back with your news for our PSVR this week and all VR, because sometimes other VR things affect PSVR inadvertently.
Other VR things.
Which is exciting. So the
includes
first piece of
porn.
news, that is true, that does affect regular VR. The first piece of news is there's been some comments made recently that I thought were worth mentioning by a certain Todd Howard. Who's Todd Howard, Keegan?
He's the guy that does that video game that everybody loves.
Yes, he is the
Bethesda Studios.
head honcho of Bethesda Studios.
Skyrim or Elder Scrolls and Fallout series is kind of what
Collectamundo.
is his baby.
And as we know, already firmly dipped toes in VR because they have Fallout 4 VR, they have Elder Scrolls VR. They're looking at doing more VR with some of the smaller games like the Blades or whatever it is coming out soon, some other things. They have Wolfenstein, the Cyber Pilot's going to be coming out soon in VR. Doom, VFR, like lots of really good stuff coming out of Bethesda VR-wise. So, when he opens his mouth, we listen. So he recently said, I'm a little more VR than AR. We did Fallout and Skyrim in VR. We're just about to enter the second generation of VR. Historically, the third generation is where it starts to become popular. What do you think of that? Like, do you think that's...
I agree.
You think so?
Yeah.
Give me an example.
I mean, non-gaming example. Look at Apple Watch. Look at the iPod. I mean, the iPod. I think the iPod Mini, which is the third generation iPod, I think kind of made the iPod what it was back in the day.
Right.
I think that the Apple Watch third generation with cellular has brought a lot of people on board. Those are prime examples.
Kind of what people thought it was going to be to begin with.
Yeah,
Right?
and I think the same thing with VR. Like I've always I had a conversation with somebody at work the other day. I can't remember who it was, but the conversation went. Oh, it was Mike. And one of the conversation kind of went because I asked him if he'd ever played VR because we were talking about video games and all this kind of stuff, and he's like, "No, I don't really have any desire to." And I was like, I asked him why. He's like, "I just don't understand why. Like, I get the cool immersion of it, but I don't understand why. Like, it's not what I want it to be." And I was like, "That's fair because it's not where it's, in my opinion, not where it needs to be mainstream." That being said, I also told him that the first time you jump in VR, you have this whole crazy moment of like, "Holy shit!" I feel like a lot of times you can see the potential more than you can see what's actually in front of you, and then the more you play VR, you see what's in front of you. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah,
You become
that
jaded.
makes sense. That makes you do become a little jaded.
So it's
But I
like-
think it's just because there's like we already talked about this kind of extensively on indie, but I think it's because of the shovelware versus the big ones.
Well, I think it's also a hardware thing. Like the
there's
visuals
limitations,
of VR are only going to get better, and I don't think we'll ever get like I don't want to say we'll never because you will at some point, but in the near future we will not get what we're seeing now in real world, but we will get to the point where we are like we are
It's a
on
little
video games on
scary.
TV,
Right.
where it's super clear. Like I think right now the big thing for a lot of people, and me included, is the screen door effect. I'm not a huge fan of it, but it's something you just got to deal with.
It kind of eradicates when you're in the game, though.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's only really when the screen goes black that you kind of notice it.
Well, the other thing too is like the graphics. Like the
Right.
graphics of VR games to me are more stylized now. Partially, I think that's because of need
Easier
more than
to
anything
get
else.
away with it. Yeah.
It's not.
I mean,
as
there are
taxing on the machine.
exceptions, but yeah, I mean, doing something at the level of Resident Evil or Skyrim or whatever is not an easy task to do. And
Yeah, I mean, even
both of those
Resident Evil,
games
even
were
Resident
built
Evil
ground
though
up.
on the OG PS4 had the screen blurring on the sides like
Yeah.
significantly. So like that's a prime example of hardware limitation. So 3 years to me that seems perfect. The question is, when is that going to be? What's the lifespan of a PSVR? What's the lifespan of an HTC Vive? Technically, is HTC Vive Gen 2?
Yeah.
Like they have the
With the
Vive
Pro.
Pro. Is that Gen 2? The Oculus is the DK development kit's Gen 1 and we're in Gen 2, or is the retail release Gen 1?
think-
How does that work?
I almost feel like, to a large extent, the games define the era, because even though the hardware is obviously a big part of like changing up your eras, really like the reason why I think now it's considered to be approaching second generation is just because we're at a point where the people that have already churned out their first VR game are like working on their second or third.
I disagree.
And then we have like ports that are proving conceptually that things are possible. And I think we're just kind of at a point where what we're seeing now, game-wise, appears to be leaps and bounds ahead of what we maybe were having to begin with. Definitely, like a hardware change is needed, I think, for like an official kind of change. But I feel like right now we've gone from almost generation 1 to generation 2 with PSVR without any hardware updates.
I disagree, because the same thing with PlayStation or Xbox or any of that. The beginning of the console, the games look different than the end of the console. That's still the same generation. You just learn how to use that technology better. That's
Correct.
not a generation
That's fair.
change.
But I would say like
hardware
Still,
iterations is what drives games forward to look prettier, which
Yeah.
is what we define a lot of times now as next
But
generation.
unlocking the tech of hardware from something like launch title versus end of life title is still a generational change in the ability of that console, in my humble opinion.
Yeah, I don't consider
It's not generation in terms of like year wise, but I think like as far as like what you're looking at generationally, it looks
because I'm
different to
looking
what it was.
with the way Todd Howard says, I'm thinking hardware generation more than anything else, because I think hardware is going to be
Well,
what
then
they
he
define it
also
as.
said we're approaching the second generation.
Yeah.
So
Because I think PSVR 2 is not that far away.
I think
and I
it's-
don't think
I think it's a
HTC
good 3 to 4
Vive 2
years.
is not that far. Oh, I don't think so. Because
we'll see.
you think about it, 2020 PS5, 2021 PSVR 2.
Warzone VR announced for PSVR. Now, Warzone VR, there's not a lot to go off on the trailer, but so I'm torn on this because the studio that worked on this game doesn't necessarily have the highest previous success rate with some of their stuff. I think is it Sin Studios? Would you look that up real quick and see what else they did?
Make sure make sure this is muted. Whoop.
But the trailer.
Sin Studio Inc.
Yeah, the trailer that dropped for Warzone VR was a pretty impressive little trailer. It showed minimalistic amounts of information, but what they did show, if it is truly in-game, which I doubt, but if they did, it is vehicles, it is guns, it is kind of, if not open world, then at least very large sandbox environments, and it kind of looks like PUBG VR. But like legitimately graphically on the same kind of a level. Like you have your Rec Royale and stuff, which is kind of like, yeah, PUBG VR, but it's still Rec Royale, right? It's still Rec Room. It's still kind of like goofy sprites and like weird stuff. This is highly stylized. Like the guns look great. They sound great. The vehicles look great. But I almost look at the trailer and think they're lying. You know what I mean? Like, how can you have it look that good compared to everything that's come out so far?
Yeah. Can I?
That's
I'm
my
gonna read.
concern.
I'm gonna read this from their press kit.
Please do.
So the concept. Actually, let's start at the top. Sin Studio presents War, a massive multiplayer online shooter set to release this fall. Warzone combines tactical gameplay with a wide arsenal of weapons, vehicles, and large map where several teams/squads compete for dominance. The game features realistic graphics, pushing the limitations of VR hardware, combined with the use of realistic weapons and gameplay mechanics to fully immerse the players in the epic Battlefield experience. Concept. Warzone takes place in a near future where war has brought destruction and decay to the world. A once thriving civilization has gone as the strongest who fought for their command are left in the ruins to survive. Equipped with everything they had and needed during the war, these soldiers of tomorrow now struggle to take and keep resources opposed by no one but themselves. The setting. In the game, players will be exposed to large maps and locations from all over the world. Starting with Egypt on launch day, the official map will range in size from 2 by 2 kilometers to 4 by 4 kilometers. Gameplay. Players will have a wide selection of weapons to use, from pistols to SMGs, ARs, shotguns, long-range rifles, and more. This, combined with the use of military convoys / vehicles, will introduce new levels of military immersion in VR as multiple teams / squads compete simultaneously to dominate the map. Each session is objective-based and doesn't rely on senselessly killing. Multiple objectives may be presented to the teams at any given time, and as many as 10 teams of 5 may compete at maximum in one game. Some events and objectives are randomized and will provide players with sudden changes in gameplay during their match, whilst others are static and prevalent throughout the game. An in-depth overview of Warzone will be released in a separate press kit when the official gameplay trailer, if I can speak, releases prior to the release. Expected to be on PC, fall 2018, then PSVR shortly afterwards.
So that's a lot of information.
Straight from the horse's
Thank you
mouth.
for pulling that. And Sin Studios, I did look it up, were previously known for, and this is where, I get a little deflated, Wraith and The Perfect Sniper VR, which are not bad games by any means. They're stylistically interesting. But
Perfect Sniper wasn't exactly
for
perfect.
for those guys who made two, let's say, middle of the road VR titles, to suddenly come out and make what looks to be a stunning, improvement in pretty much every aspect of VR combat that we've seen to this day, would be highly surprising. For it to stay and look as good as it does in the trailer that you saw a minute ago, I would be surprised. Let's say that.
These screenshots are overselling this game easily.
Yeah, that's my concern. And the overselling VR stuff really pisses me off, because we've been let down so many times by huge companies like Supermassive. So it's not like they're, it's not like they're alone.
I also think we need to understand, again, going back to the debate we had previously about Todd Howard, of like, what's the hardware capable of? Are we setting unreal expectations for the hardware we currently have?
Yeah.
Because like I said, we're not going to get Call of Duty the way it looks like on a PS4 Pro inside of a VR headset. No. Period. Like,
I just want the
happen.
gameplay, man. That's all I want. This is the gameplay. Someone
needs
make
to
a
look,
goddamn online shooter.
It needs to
shit.
look pretty.
Yeah.
Not like, it doesn't need to look like spectacular,
right?
But it needs to look serviceable.
But I mean, it's so annoying though, because they can do that. Like, you look at games like Bravo Team, you look at that kind of stuff. Like, they can make games look pretty, but then how do you then still implement in all the online stuff?
And I think a lot of it comes down to cost of manufacturing. Where do you put your focus? And like we've said it before many times, the player base.
I am, hand on heart, I'm hoping that this game is a success in studio. I really, really hope you guys can pull this off, because if you can, it looks amazing. I am just, our favorite phrase, cautiously optimistic about this game. Moving on, box art for Firewall Zero Hour Aim bundle has been released, and it looks a little like this. If you're listening on audio, I'll give you a description. So basically, it is
with Firewall.
It's it's kind of like Sony does those weird adverts where they where you have like a pretend VR headset thing on your face that looks like alien lights coming out of your head. They do a lot of those. You may have seen them. So they're
actually teasing PSVR 2 with that. That's what it's going to look like.
That would be dope. If that's what it looks like, that'd be dope.
PSAR.
So they have a guy who I assume is a normal guy in his living room with that light weird situation on his head, and then he's holding an aim controller. On the other side of the door are two, I assume, like terrorists or whatever.
Two agents.
And it's just cool. It's cool. So it's very, very short news but I just thought, may as well showcase it since it is new. This is more exciting to me, but this is something that
I was just saying it does not require the aim. It doesn't. For the aim.
We had a conversation with a fella. Did you see the conversation that we had? Because we had our conversation about this before, about like aim versus controllers and how controllers would have the advantage and stuff. And he aptly pointed out something which I thought that we missed in our conversation, which is something I honestly just didn't know because I'd never tried it.
Controller uses motion
that when you use
I didn't think about that either.
DS4, it uses a light bar. So that's, I guess, is an addendum to our previous conversation that no, you really shouldn't have an advantage because you're not using the right stick, you're using the light bar. The light bar, which means your
is fair then.
Reaction speed is the same, which is good.
Yeah, because if it's the right stick, I think you have an advantage.
So Sony design lead, working currently on Blood and Truth, said expect VR to create a new game genre within 5 years. Over the next 5 years, Hamden said to expect a handful of developments, most notably that one new genre of game will be born, one that will only be possible in VR.
Thank you.
Many VR titles today are ports of non-VR titles, but Hamden suggests that new games should be designed from the ground up for VR. He advised developers to start by understanding why they selected VR as a medium and then differentiate their experiences using VR presence, surround audio, distinctive input methods, and head tracking. Part of the 5-year process will include creating both consistent and user customizable interfaces for VR games. Hamden expects that a consistent design language will be established for VR and that developers will learn how to use customization, including controller and movement options, to reduce motion sickness and improve experiences for sensitive players. As a result, the next 5 years will see VR gain true killer apps and become more popular in both the mobile and medical sectors. By the 10-year mark, Hamden expects that haptic feedback will be part of the VR experience and a game changer, as users will be able to feel objects down to the texture level. This will make VR experiences more immersive and enable further new genres of VR games to emerge. Then, 25 years down the line, this man just keeps going, he expects that VR should be as ubiquitous as smartphones are today. Interestingly, Hamden also reinforced a point that has been made by other tech companies recently. Despite the decline of brick-and-mortar retail, physical stores are becoming critically important in winning over customers. It's really hard to get across how the VR experience is actually going to feel with the headset on, Hamden said. It's not as simple as putting a video game out there and then you know exactly what our game is like in VR. It's a very different thing to see it and to actually feel it and to have that presence in VR and be inside that experience. I see that you're happy.
So I was happy until he kept going. Okay. So let's break this down.
Let's start with the happy stuff.
I'm going to start with
I'm feeling
I'm going to start with the 5-year plan.
Go for it.
I'm going to start with the 5-year plan. It's exactly what I've been saying, almost word for word, right?
You don't like games that you think could just exist in flat worlds and be fine.
Yeah, there's no selling advantage to PSVR unless the game is made from PSVR from the ground up to get people in. Otherwise, you're just porting things over.
That doesn't mean that ports are useless,
no,
though.
I don't want to say ports are bad.
Right.
But
we need more.
To make the PSVR stand on its own, or VR in general stand on its own, you need to do what this guy said, where many VR titles are ports of non-VR titles, but Hamden suggests that new games should be designed from the ground up for VR. He advises developers to start understanding why they selected VR as a medium and then differentiate their experiences using VR presence. That line is amazing. Going on to the haptic feedback, that's amazing as well. Going on to the ubiquitous is smartphones, that's amazing as well. The problem I have with that is we've got to sustain to that point. That's where I kind of come in and say, hold up, the technology's there. We're gonna
if this is obviously with like rose tinted glass.
If everything goes right, this I think is true.
This is the good path.
But we have to have the sustainability of a company behind a product or companies behind a product to get it to the 25-year mark. And if it's not financially sustainable, they are going to drop it.
Yeah.
So that 5-year plan, I wish it was less than 5 years, but I agree that when that is, and I think that it's funny because it falls in line very similar to Mr. Howard, where like 5 years in, guess what you're going to be doing?
Third generation.
You're going to be 5 years. I think it'll be second generation. So 5 years in, you're still going to be the second generation.
5 years from now.
The 10 years is the third generation with the haptic, which is what's going to sell to a lot of people.
Gotcha.
So that's why I feel like it fits very perfectly with what Todd Howard's saying. The question again is,
how do we
can we get there before everything?
How about we make a podcast and talk about it a lot and hope that people enjoy it?
Yeah,
that's something we.
But
can
yeah,
do.
I like what he said. Everything sounds amazing, especially that first part.
The last part also super important because think about how many extra headsets Sony sold after they did that like test at home kit thing, where they were like, you could like we'll just send you a fucking kit and then to your house and you can try it for 2 weeks. There are like I would love to see the turnaround figures for how many people kept it. You know what I mean? I bet
for multiple reasons. One, they just don't want to ship it back.
Yeah, for sure. But I think like it is like it's so understated and important to say. And there's still to this day every day since launch it's happened. But to this day, every time I jump into the r/PSVR subreddit, there is someone there saying I just got a PSVR and holy shit. Like it's every single day there's someone that does that. And it's the people that have been kind of like universally panning it because it's a Sony side project, which, you know, fair enough, they kind of earned that, you know, that shit show of a reputation. But I think that for a lot of people, it's an impossible to understand thing until you do it until you try it. There's just no way to explain it to you. There's everyone that says to me, should I try VR? Should I buy a PSVR? They know we do this podcast. They trust our opinions. I always suggest that they fucking try it because there's no other way to know. I can tell you all of my fun experiences with it. I can say I felt like I have been through the Baker's mansion in Resident Evil 7 and came out alive. And your
experiences are my experiences.
You know, and you can say about the time you were working jobs as a robot or whatever. And you know, and we have those experiences and they feel like real experiences. Like to an extent, obviously I know that I wasn't in an actual haunted mansion or whatever, but like I feel like going through some of the trials and errors and things that I've done in VR feels like I was there.
The first experience I ever had with PSVR was in Best Buy with David, and we played PlayStation Worlds. We did Ocean Descent, and I legit curled up, put my legs because the shark was attacking me, and I was screaming in the middle of a Best Buy store because I was being attacked by a shark. And now it's like, it's kind of like we said. What I said before is like you now become jaded because you know kind of how you feel about it, but at the same time, it's just, that first time you'll never forget. But I also feel like it's only going to get better if we can get to that point.
It's the sustainability comes back to it.
There's and I've said for a while there's a couple things that would need to happen. One, no breakout boxes, just plug and play, and VR will be, or better yet, wireless. But I think we're still
with our next generation of consoles. I would like to think that they're able to support.
I think we're off the bat. But I think we're still a long way from wireless, true wireless that you don't have to carry around big kits with you. Yeah, all that kind of stuff.
I don't want a battery on my face anyway.
Well, it could be on the back of your head.
I don't want it on the back of I don't want a battery near my brain.
Well, that sucks.
Yeah.
You already have one.
Do it. Well, I don't really use the phone like that though. I don't call people really. I put it on speaker. So I'm that guy.
But yeah, I agree with having it in stores and having demos to show off is the way to go. I also think that there are a lot of people that will never buy first gen of something. Yeah. Because I was the same way. Like I bought first gen Apple Watch. I returned it because it's not what I wanted. I clearly have an Apple Watch now, and this is a Series 2 because they're added GPS.
First gen.
Yeah, it's stupid. First gen or Gen 0?
Gen 0.
Gen 0, not even Gen 1.
Yeah, not even Gen 1.
Not even Series 1.
Speaking of sustainability, let's
shout out these people.
Congrats to Sean and the crew at Rec Room who have just killed it since day one with Rec Room. It's been such a great experience. They finally hit 100,000 custom rooms.
Can we talk about a developer doing things right?
God damn.
I don't know how you make money, Sean. Please tell me how you make money.
Yeah, really.
I really want to know.
Like, I mean, you can't even pay for like the outfits and stuff. They're all free too. I don't know what the fuck this guy does. So the tweet went out from the Rec Room official account that said, "We just hit 100,000 player-created rooms in Rec Room. Custom rooms are 7 months old, so 100,000 is quite a lot. To compare, it took the Apple App Store 17 months to get to 100,000 apps, and it took the web 5 years to go from the first website to 100,000 sites." So
I feel like that's a drastically different comparison though for apps. Because apps take a little bit longer. But
it is still a lot. Pretty impressive.
That's the point he's making. It's just a lot.
And they've had some fabulous custom rooms. We've spent some time in a few of them. They're so uniquely done. I love when they give the power back to the player base and they're like, do whatever the fuck you want. Mm-hmm. This is why like Little Big Planet was so interesting. This is why I'm so excited about Dreams.
I'm fucking. Me and Bertrand are like, we're gonna get literally lost in Dreams.
So I really huge congratulations to Sean and the team over at Rec Room for creating not only still one of the best, most sustainable VR experiences, but the best social experience.
If somebody if somebody buys a PSVR and they ask me what games to buy day one or what should I get day one,
it's free.
Well, you still have to get it.
It's even better.
That's what I'm saying though. Right. What should you get day one?
Definitely this.
PlayStation Worlds, Rec Room. I think you would say Resident Evil 7. I wouldn't just because it's not my game, but we'll put it on there.
If you like horror.
I expect you to die.
I expect you.
And let's do Dirt VR for a different experience. I think that's a good 5 right there because you get a bunch of variety with it.
Solid 5. Like it.
I'm trying to think what else. I mean, Farpoint I would too, but Farpoint I didn't like just because I had spiders jump on my face. So.
Farpoint is a pretty killer experience if you haven't tried it, especially with the aim. But again, a lot of these things, I don't like. This is going to sound kind of selfish. I don't consider people like yourselves feelings when it comes to games that you can't play physically because you're nervous about the gameplay. So like when it comes to like spiders jumping at your face or zombies attacking you or whatever the fuck it is, like when I'm doing that stuff, like I see all of that as something that benefits everyone in that genre. And
does
I'm
not.
just and that's the thing. Like, and that's my bad. Like, that's me being I said,
that.
being kind
So
of selfish.
I was
but,
on
like,
I was on r/PSVR the other day, and a perfect Reddit thread or subreddit that was like, or thread that was for me. It was, the question was, if I don't like horror games, will I like PSVR? And I was like, that is a great question, because some of the best games are horror because it does it really well. But I would say yes, because there's the
I
job
would say
simulators,
yes,
there's
but not as much as the people that like horror.
yeah, there's the
You know
I
what I
Expect You to Dies, the dirt rallies,
There's still the experiences there, but I think the horror experiences benefit from one additional layer, and here's why. Because horror games are largely atmosphere-based, and PSVR, or VR in general, is largely atmosphere-based.
Yeah.
So,
But it was a good question. I
It's
was like,
the perfect coupling. But yeah, it is a great question, actually.
Because if you don't like horror games like me, like, I
Kudos
feel like there's a lot less.
to that gentleman.
I don't remember who it was, but I remember reading that now.
So let's talk about Jupiter and Mars. Not the planets, but the game. The dolphins, in fact. The
Girls
cyber
go to
dolphins.
Jupiter to get more stupid, or boys go to Mars to get more chocolate bars.
Wow.
You never heard that before?
No, I have not.
Clearly you're not American.
I kind of,
That's
kind
not
of
my Red Bull I'm
wish
drinking.
I didn't. But,
Did you get more stupider?
yes, I did. Jupiter and Mars is a game that showed up a couple times now on the big stage at Sony, and every time they've shown it, everyone's been, ooh, that looks good. What the fuck is that? Because no one really knows anything about it. It looks like a weird cyber Echo the Dolphin in 3D space, but it's a VR game, so, like, am I the dolphin? Am I watching the dolphins? Are they in front of me? Like, seriously, like,
Am I petting the
what
dolphin?
the fuck is going on here? So recently, a little bit more information has come to light about Jupiter and Mars, and I'd like to share it with you now, because I feel like there's probably a lot of people that are scratching their heads with the same question. So, this article is huge, and I would suggest that if you want to read the whole thing, that you go down and actually read the whole thing in the description below.
From good old Christian Donlin.
Yeah, the link's going to be there.
Eurogamer.
It's from Eurogamer.net. But I'm going to touch on some of the finer points about, like, what actually fucking is this game? Because I think that's something that a lot of people have questions about. So, let's see here. In the future, human civilization has collapsed entirely, and a group of whales called the Elders are helping two dolphins, Jupiter and Mars, to shut down the last remnants of wretched technology and restore the oceans to health. In a way, it's a twist on Child of Eden's corrupted Leviathan again. I think these are the guys that did Child of Eden. A righteous scoring of the ills that infect nature. But this time, the ills are us. Jupiter and Mars is a game about cleaning up our mess. And what a mess. Frankly, Jupiter and Mars first started to come together for... His name is like Milky? How do you pronounce that? Michael? Milky?
Oh, Michael.
As far back as 2009, it's like when he was in Japan, and just a whole lot of stuff going on. Anyway, he's always been an environmentalist, but suddenly his thoughts were constantly filled with clogged rivers and burning lakes and the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. Do you know about that? Mm-hmm. It's interesting, isn't it? There's a book
Documentary?
that I used to read. There's
documentary on
a really
Netflix.
good comic called The Great Pacific, which is about that, and it's about this guy that basically like makes an island out of the garbage. It's just kind of interesting. Anyway, so
it's just gotta go somewhere.
If you didn't know about it, the great part is well earned. Sadly, there's basically a bobbing congregation of refuse bags and water bottles and exfoliating micro beads, and it's now 3 times the size of France, and it's in the ocean. So yay!
Mainly the Pacific Ocean.
So yeah,
Specifically in the Pacific.
God, that's a mouthful. So basically, he was starting to start thinking about the world that's going to be kind of left behind for his daughter, and he started getting scared about it. A few years later, he watched The Cove. Have you seen that?
No.
Okay, it's a documentary about the annual dolphin slaughter in the Japanese town of Taiji, and the game really started to emerge from the deep for him. The Japanese government tries to rationalize the slaughter away as being part of Japanese tradition, he says, but it's really all about profit. Dolphins are such magnificent creatures. They're butchered annually in a barbaric ritual that is closer to genocide. So he started to layer these things together, and he started to get like the idea of kind of these two dolphins in a post-human future, and he drew it on games that he loved, like Panzer Dragoon II, Sub Rebellion, Eco, and the Metroid series. He tells me that everyone expects him to list Echo as an inspiration, but Jupiter and Mars really has nothing to do with that. So that's as much as I'm going to go into, like, that part of it, because like I said, it's a huge ass interview, and you should read it all because it's actually really fascinating. But basically, we have this game which when you look at it just looks like two weird cyber dolphins like swimming through the ocean. What this is boiling down to is basically a super high-level conceptual commentary on the state of the ocean, I guess humankind, I guess nature, and all this kind of other things that are sort of packed in there. But the gameplay, when he said things like Panzer Dragoon, I started thinking, oh, actually, that sounds kind of neat. I love Panzer Dragoon. I've always been a huge fan of that. Eco is very kind of, emotional as far as the journey goes. I got like hints of like Abzu and stuff from it, from the gameplay that they did show. So my thought is, I still question the idea of VR. I'm not gonna lie, I'm with you on that, on this actually. I'm just like, I don't know why it had to be VR, but I like oceans, I like VR. I figure it'll work itself out. What are your thoughts on this and those comments?
I mean, I don't know. I think it's cool. I'm still in the boat that I need to see more of it. It's a game that's or experience. I don't even know if you can consider it a game at this point.
I guess there's game elements to it.
Yeah.
It's got to be.
But the question is, what is it still?
Yeah.
I like that there is more. We were just talking about on Indie Please That Details, which actually goes live tomorrow, about Path of Modus having an underlying thing that ties everything together. Yeah, and it's cool when people take, like, I played Mother Gunship. There's no underlying conceptual thing there. It's just shoot as many things as you can, build as crazy-ass guns, which is fine. It's fun. I enjoyed my time in it, and I'm going to play it more. But there's something about those emotional stories that you're just like, if you do this right and get somebody to think about it, it's even better.
Well, there's popcorn movies, and there's, like emotional roller coasters.
Blackfish.
Movies. Yeah, there's stuff that makes you feel feelings. And I personally am a huge advocate as games as art. I think video games actually are, in some senses, more important than movies and some of those other mediums as far as storytelling, because really the storytelling you can do in a video game is tenfold over what you can do with a visual medium, because you have so much more going on when you have player interaction. You can really fuck with someone's head, essentially.
You also have longer time.
Right. Yeah, you have a way longer time. So I love it. Everything about this sounds great to me. Aside from the fact that I still don't really know what the gameplay looks like, I do love the conceptualization of it. I love the idea that this is where he's going with it, and I am a sucker for an emotional tale. So I'm all in. I want to see a little bit more as far as the gameplay is concerned, but as far as like everything I've heard so far, all good things. What do you guys think about it? I'd like to know because that's it's a pretty interesting article. Have you seen the Cove or anything like that? Like, drop it in the comments as usual. We love interacting with you. Please do that. But that's Jupiter and Mars. So moving on. Minotaur Arcade Volume 1 is headed to PSVR and flat stuff. So this is, I'm going to show a brief bit about this. I'm not going to go too far into it. You can kind of see the footage behind me here. This is all gameplay, by the way. But it's like, it's in the vein of like these Polybius games and like these kind of super hyper, like ritualistic shooters. It is, it's a big sphere, essentially. And you're kind of bopping around the sphere, shooting things, avoiding bullets, etc., etc.
There's another game that it reminds me of, and I can't think of it.
A bit like Super Stardust mixed with like
well, I'm thinking non-VR game. There's one.
Super Stardust is a non-VR as well.
I was gonna say there's one that came out. I played it on Apple TV, but I can't remember what the name of the game was.
But yeah,
literally, it's a thing on a sphere. You shoot.
Yeah, spinning around a sphere, shooting things. You've seen it before, but I guess it'd just be a little bit more fun in VR because you can actually like look around the sphere a little bit, see things coming at you. But again, it's on flat too, so either or. Next up, Honor and Duty devs share video of dual-wielding co-op drive-by in Honor and Duty D-Day. They're hoping to release the first week of August, which we already said is not a good time to release your game. But here's the thing about Honor and Duty. All due respect to Strange Games and indie developers and anyone that makes video games. I love you all. Mwah. Thanks for keeping us excited. I really didn't like it. And it's weird because I don't know. I feel sometimes, like with the possible exception of you, I'm like the only one. Because every time I go to Reddit, they're raving about it. Every time I watch like PSVR Without Parole, PSVR Frank, any other PSVR guys that do this, they love it. I'm just like, I don't get it. Like, what are people seeing here that I'm not seeing? To me, it's been this kind of like... Well,
the other question is, are they making good reviews to make sure they keep the devs happy for when the next game comes out?
I wonder. Yeah, you gotta. I don't want to like throw that out there, like shit on people. But
I don't want to say that's what they're doing, but that is potential because
it's a possibility.
One of the things I read on PSVR subreddit the other day, and this is kind of a little bit of a tangent of that, is there was somebody, it's like, I think you saw it, where it's like, where's a good place to get PSVR coverage that's not happy, cheerful all the time about every single game? And I was like, well, hopefully we do that. But,
yeah. I mean,
But-
I try and keep it posy, just because.
Well, yeah,
like,
but you also have to have the realistic voice.
oh yeah, I'm not.
of, like-
I'm not like relentlessly positive about it. I want it to succeed, which is why I try and keep it positive. But if I see a shitty game, I'll call it out.
But I also feel
You know
like
what I mean?
with us, me being I'm not as excited for VR as I once was, and that I think is because they've not proved to me that it deserves excitement. It's had too many hiccups and too many things happen, and not enough things going on to keep me excited this long.
Which is fair.
Because
Fair commentary.
mainly because I'm non-horror.
Maybe-
I'm sure because I'm not a horror fan.
Oh, I thought you said you were a non-whore.
Horror.
Okay.
So if there was
It's like I wasn't calling you a whore.
no, if I was a horror fan, maybe it's a different story. But right now,
Right.
I feel like PSVR had nothing to keep me excited, and the games I've been excited about didn't do so well.
And I think
Or I couldn't
that needs to
play.
be out there. There's definitely like pretty much every VR review I see is always relentlessly positive, and there might be a couple
and then
criticisms here and there.
then
But
if you criticize something, people shit on you.
yeah, but like
Welcome to the internet.
honestly, like again, we support indie developers. No one in their right mind can say that we don't because of the amount of coverage that we give to them. But at the same time,
gonna
I don't get
say
it.
it how we see it.
I really don't get it. And it could just be me. It could be a personal thing, and maybe I'm the crazy one. But to me, this game has not been remotely close to enjoyable at any point. And the D-Day thing, like I'm willing to give them a second chance. I'm definitely not going to write it off and say, yeah, the first one was shit. I'm not, I definitely would play it, but I'm not excited for it at all. So the gameplay, that they showed, very brief clip, by the way, it's already gone. I'm sure it's back to the title screen by now. But it's you compare something like that up against some of the stuff we have coming down the pipeline in terms of like Firewall and stuff like that, and you just kind of think like,
Firewall is the only game that
Really?
I'm excited about right now.
I don't know,
Period.
Astrobot. There's a couple.
Oh
of
yeah, I forgot. Well, yeah, those,
See,
those are probably the only two.
Got to keep on it. There's more. There is more. I promise. So yeah, I hate like being like negative Nancy about that stuff, but like it's news. There's vehicles, and you can dual wield with your buddy in the vehicle and shoot people. That's the news. As far as whether you should dig that or not, I'll leave that entirely up to you.
That's why you follow game journalists multiple, because they have different opinions.
True that. So the last piece of news that I have for you is like semi-posy, semi-neggy.
Whoa, careful how you say that there.
Yeah, good point. I just noticed that as I was saying it. But yeah, it's Seeking Dawn. So Seeking Dawn is a title that I've been super hyped on for a long time. Hasn't yet come to PSVR. Is on its way, as promised by developers. If you remember, some of the earlier footage made it look like kind of like a sci-fi title that had elements of like base crafting and alien monsters, and it was kind of just like a sort of a more richly put together Farpoint, I would say. Farpoint is sparse in places. This was not. This was like green shrubbery everywhere, and the monsters were really interesting looking, and like it was I don't know, it just looked really cool, and the base building and stuff was like extra for people like you that love that stuff. Like I'm sure you were excited about that. So since release, which was only a little while ago, they've had some feedback about the game. So I'm going to give you the official statement by Seeking Dawn. Clearing throat. Multiverse is the company, by the way. Since yesterday's launch of Seeking Dawn, we have received tons of constructive feedback and suggestions and good wishes from our passionate community. There are also technical issues and bug reports that we value equally. We'd like to take the time to thank each and every one of you for using your precious time to provide us with important information so we can continue to improve Seeking Dawn. Our mission to develop one of the best VR games is not yet finished, but thanks to your undying support, we are more encouraged than ever before. We sincerely apologize to every player who is having technical issues at the moment. We have located several issues that require immediate attention, such as crashes, stutters, and blurry graphics. Our dev team is working night and day to fix these issues. Also, we are making some adjustments to gameplay mechanics to make Seeking Dawn even more fun. We will release a more detailed roadmap along with plans for new content soon. Stay tuned for some exciting announcements.
You know the thing I just said about a lot of disappointments in VR? Prime example.
Well, I'm not done yet. All right. So the review that Road to VR gave it was 6.5 out of 10, which kind of just says, there was like, they said there's some grading game mechanics, overemphasis on repetitive resource collection, gutless item crafting, base building. It is very impressive, apparently, graphically, and the enemies are cool, and like it did, definitely pull out some stops. So I do like the way they addressed that. I do think that was very humble of them to come out and say, yeah, we fucked up, we're patching it. trust us. Another statement that was obtained by VR Focus, the CEO, Freeman Fan, which is an awesome name, by the way, says the studio has, and I quote, huge content and upgrade plans, which should release closer to the launch of the PSVR version, which still does not have an actual release date yet, but still. On top of any bug fixes, they're working on a plan to include 5 more hours of playable story, a weapon leveling system, new alien beasts to challenge, and texture improvements already to the very stellar visuals that are already there. So what it looks like is almost a No Man's Sky situation where there's
Released it too soon.
Yeah, where there was just like, I don't know if it's necessarily released it too soon, but it's like maybe you're focusing on the wrong shit. Like, the graphics are great, but at the same time, like, if your gameplay loop is boring, then no one's going to give a shit. So,
or if you have...
I'm bummed about it.
Or if you have technical issues.
But again, I like the way they addressed it. I like the fact they did address it the day after launch. So clearly they sat there, they received the feedback, and they said, you know what? Yep, you're right. It's fucked up. We're going to fix it. They're implementing patches, like, working around the clock to do that. And they're planning this kind of massive overhaul to make it more interesting and longer and more bang for your buck, I suppose, before the PSVR launch, by the way, which should be cool. Which means I'm assuming we're going to get it bundled in and it won't be something we have to update later.
Day one patch.
Yeah. So Seeking Dawn, sort of not great news, but also not worrying news. More kind of like, I don't know, kind of like yay, nay. You know what I mean? It's like a bit positive,
I think
a bit
it's
negative.
I mean, I'm going to go all negative here. I think they launched the game too soon then. I think they... And granted, it's hard when you release a game to know what's going to happen technically, because when you get it in hundreds of thousands of people versus maybe 100 people's hands, things are going to break, and there's going to be bugs that change it. But it sounds like this game fundamentally...
You think they should have done like a beta test or something? Like a bigger beta test, I guess, than what they did?
Partially, and the other thing, I think, like... On top of any bug fixes, we're working on a plan to include 5 more hours of playable story. My question is, was that planned already, or was that added after the fact and they released the game without that in there and said, we need to get this out the door because maybe they're running out of money? Who knows?
Question.
I mean, that's the other thing is like games, PSVR games probably aren't cheap to make. Games in general aren't cheap to make.
You worried it's Destiny.
But it's one of those things where like you got to get out the door because you got to start getting money in, and first day sales get money in. But how much do you hurt your reputation when that happens? And if they fix it, like I can't shit on a game for being horrible at launch because I played The Division at launch, and I still play The Division to this day. Division was a technical mess. What Ubisoft did, and I give them credit, they did not launch any DLC until they fixed their base game. This, I really hope that they fix the bugs before they launch this new content.
I think that's what they're getting. They're saying they're working to fix the bugs now.
That's what I'm
hoping.
hoping.
The new content won't be even like until just before the PSVR.
But they're working on, but they have to work on that content at the same time they're fixing the bugs to get it ready for the PSVR launch.
Yeah.
So they're splitting their team, and if the bugs are as bad as this statement says, like you're talking crashes, stutters, blurry graphics, like their team is working on to fix those issues, and that's awesome to try and fix those issues. But if they don't get those fixed and then they drop another content drop, which could have its own bugs that compound the bugs that are already there, like, well, so
it's a rocky road.
I give them credit for coming out and saying this. Like, I want to give them benefit of the doubt of, hey, if they fix it, awesome. But my gut reaction to this was, I feel like they released their game too soon, or I don't want to say they, like you said, they focused on the wrong thing. I don't know if they necessarily focused on the wrong thing. I just don't think everything was cleaned up enough.
On the plus side, hopefully by the time it hits our medium of choice, the PSVR, the bugs will be ironed out and everything.
But that sucks for PC people.
It does.
Like that's the big thing is that I don't think anybody should play Guinea Pig unless it's an early access game.
Yeah.
And if it came out and said early access, cool.
I don't know if they did. I don't think they did.
No, that's what I mean. If a game comes out and says this is early access, I expect bugs. Like Conan Exiles, early access game. It's got plenty of bugs inside of it. So Subnautica was an early access game, had plenty of bugs inside of it. Like I get that. If it comes out full release, I expect there to be bugs because every game has bugs, but I don't expect them to be game breaking.
Yeah. Cool. That is your news roundup for this week on Codename Morpheus. Went a little long there in places. Sorry about that, but there was some interesting stuff hopefully covered, and yeah, so there you go. So we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to come back with a spotlight, which this week is going to be on Hopalong, the Badlands. See you then. shining a spotlight this week on Hopalong the Badlands. So I played this morning, actually, for quite a while. And let me just say, it is nothing like I expected it to be at all. And honestly, I wasn't really sure what I expected. Do you remember the trailer for this game? Right. So there's kind of a lot of questions to be had when you watch the trailer, because the immediate thing that you notice is they're not real horses, right? They're like the little gallopy giddy up things that you're supposed to put between your legs and run around with. But then you watch the trailer and you see that there's like several bandits and stuff running around with these stupid ass gallopy horse things and shooting each other. And I was kind of like, okay, what the fuck is going on here? Graciously, From the Future Games gave us a key to try it out, and I did. And honestly, it's all right. It's kind of fun. It's weird to explain, but I kind of have to explain the premise of the controls, because the controls are what makes it fun. So it has definitely the most unique, possibly with the exception of Sprint Vector, the most unique movement controls of any VR game I've played so far. So you are a cowboy or cowgirl, sure, why not? Or cow thing, whatever. So you have cow thing. This is a new superhero. So you have in your left hand, or it says your dominant hand should have the gun. So I guess in my case, my left hand was my giddy up pony thing, right? I don't know what they're called. Are they hobby horses?
I don't know, but giddy up pony thing sounds very sexual.
My giddy up pony thing. And my left hand.
I know what you're into.
And by the way, texturally, that thing is beautiful. Like, you could see the knit on there and everything. And I was like, I just kept looking at it. I was like, this is really cool. Just checking it out. On your horse / giddy up, pony thing, you have on the back, there's like as a sort of a power meter thing that fills up, and then there's also your health as well. Zelda hearts, which is awesome for health always. And on your right hand, or your dominant hand, what is it called?
I think it's just called stick horses.
Stick horse? That's boring.
Giddy up stick horse.
Giddy up pony thing. There you go.
Giddy up stick horse, 37-inch plush, according to Amazon.
I kind of want one. We should have bought one for this. So, so in your right hand is, if your dominant hand, is your gun.
Unicorn.
And you start out with a 6-shooter, although I think it's maybe more than 6 bullets, but it looks like a 6-shooter.
You need a unicorn with sounds. Sorry.
Jesus Christ. And then you can actually pick up other things as you go along. There are other weapons, and also some other interesting things too. There's like a pickaxe that you pick up at one point, and you can like use that to break through walls, and you can also obviously hit people with it. But so here's the controls. So your giddy up horse is left hand. Here's what you do. You hold the trigger button, and you bounce it up and down.
You're getting up on your horse.
You bounce it up and down to move forward. You could tilt it this way to move that way. You could tilt it that way to move that way.
You know what you need to do?
It's surprisingly good.
You know what you need to do?
What's that?
You need to get the giddy up horse pony thing, whatever the fuck you called it.
Yeah.
I'm assuming it's moved.
Stick it on the move controller? Yeah. Why not?
Put it underneath.
It'd be amazing.
So when you grab the thing, your hand's on the trigger, and then you just go like that.
Yeah. Or just stick a horse's head on it. Either way. So yeah.
Well, you couldn't do that because it has to track.
So it's super fucking embarrassing, because you're sat there, like, if I'm so happy my wife didn't come down, because I'm sat there literally doing this.
Jacking off a giddy up horsey thing.
Around the house. It was great though. So that's how you move. You hold the trigger, you move your hand up and down, and honestly, you work up a sweat, because you're consistently doing it. You can stop, and your horse will stop, but like the movement is pretty fast. You do.
Tom, are you saying your endurance is low?
Yeah, a little bit. I'm an old man, Keegan. Leave me alone. So you're doing your little giddy up thing. You can use the I think it's X and circle buttons to also shift your left or right a little bit, your whole vision. So you don't have to completely rely on turning your head and kind of like going this way and going that way. But it does take a little bit of getting used to doing that while you're riding, because just like it's like a what do you call it? Like a percentage shift. So it's not like a smooth motion thing, which I kind of, I don't think I even looked at the settings deeply enough to see if that is an option to do smooth turning, but that would be great if there was. But currently, yes, it's incremental turning, which means that it's like a very jarring, quick kind of like whoop to somewhere else, and you have to readjust and then start your giddying up again. So okay. So we got the horse
switch websites when you're,
we got the horse mechanics.
You switched videos halfway through, Tom.
Yeah. And then your gun, very simply, obviously point and shoot, right?
I'm trying not to make this all porn related.
Track and felt okay. There was definitely moments when I was like, I know you're in the fucking barrel of my, like I could see you down the sight lines, and it's not working. I tried the old trick of try switching eyes, because sometimes I've noticed in some games, I think definitely Cold Iron for me, I had to use the other eye that I normally would do to look down a light sign.
Sight line.
Thank you. But, you know, when I started...
Just close both eyes.
You have to... I'll probably do better. When I started, you have to shoot, like, a couple bottles and stuff. And I felt like it was perfect then, but it wasn't until I was in the game that I felt like it was off a little bit. Now, that's probably me. It could be my tracking, could be anything. It felt comfortable, but I felt like hip firing and just kind of like adjusting the bullets as I saw their trajectory was working out far better for me. Because if you don't take people out pretty fast, you're fucked. Interestingly enough, like a lot of the enemies that, by the way, also have giddy up horses and are just chasing you around with them, and it's amazing, will throw like dynamite at you and stuff, and you can kind of like shoot the dynamite back towards them. I shot dynamite like a motherfucker, but I couldn't shoot their head, which is weird, right? That I can shoot a tiny stick unless the hitbox is like really
No,
huge.
because you're good with the giddy up horse.
I guess
so. You can hit that stick.
So,
Hey!
this is such a bad one. I'm sorry from the future games. I promise I didn't try and make it porny. It just worked out that way. So once you need to reload. You've shot all your bullets.
But you did try to make it pony.
How do you think I reload?
I'm gonna say based on everything that's happened.
Basically, you lower your gun to your side, it reloads. So you're doing this, and you're shooting, and then you're down here, and you're shooting, and the whole thing is just so fun.
Did you shoot any blanks at any point, Tom?
I don't know. I wasn't sure. So the other option that you have is kind of a...
I think they
called it standoff mode or shoot-off mode or something like that. Anyway, shut the fuck up.
Even worse.
Shoot-off mode.
You go. I'm just gonna sit over here.
All right.
I'm just gonna.
So what you do for that is your gun stays by your waist, and you hold the move button before you raise it. When you do that, it instantly slows down time. So you can be like, you know, fucking McCree or whatever, and just go like, and just get like 3 people in one go. That's something that kind of reloads over time. You can't just like do it continuously on everyone.
Yeah, you got to let time to recharge, Tom.
Right. Exactly. You got to take a few minutes and a cigarette. So. So that is the premise of the control scheme, which honestly, it sounds weird, way easier and more enjoyable than you could ever possibly imagine. Like, I was smiling most of the time that I was playing because I was just
wonder
this
why.
is so goofy, but I was in, and I can't see myself, so I don't give a shit. I'm just playing with my
hobby. We're
hobby
gonna make you live
horse.
stream that game with
Playing
the
with
camera.
my giddy up. Yeah, I mean, yeah.
We're gonna give you a camera.
With the cam.
Live stream. Yeah.
I'm gonna make you play it, and you look like a dick. So
I mean, I have no issue doing that in general, so don't worry about it.
So on to the premise of the game. I mean, there are several. There are a couple different chapters. Each chapter is divided into several like mini levels and stuff, and each kind of area has a little bit of a theme to it. One of my favorite parts of the game, before I get into like actually what it kind of standardly looks like, I just wanted to throw this out there as like the last like really stupid thing that makes me laugh, is when you get your health back, you have to go to a drinking trough and you have to let your horse drink some water.
So all seriousness,
yeah,
that is amazing.
It is
like
amazing.
that's one of the things where it's just like this is.
It's so good.
Not every game has to be fucking serious, and I love the fact that that exists. Like there's moments where I'm just like, this is a video game, knowing it's a video game and knowing how stupid it is, but it does stupid really well. It sounds like.
Yeah, it does.
Which is like, I'm complimenting stupid. It's not stupid as in
it's
dumb.
fun. It's stupid fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you giddy up to your drinking trough. You put your horse's head in there. The horse will drink the water, and then you feel great. And that was like a hilarious like side note. But anyway, so like for the start of the game, you're basically like you're on a pretty. It's not really a linear path. Like there's definitely like there's a start and an end, but there's a couple like side like hillier areas you can go to, or you can take a slightly different path here. There's like shortcuts here to get to essentially the end point that you're trying to end up to. The different levels are kind of divided by different enemy types. I went through quite a few, so I saw people that were throwing dynamite at me. I saw some people that were like miners that would just fucking charge me with a pickaxe, which was terrifying, especially with a giddy up horse. There's actual shooters, so there's people that have guns, and then of course at some points they're going to start mixing them all together, and it gets super chaotic when
Did you ever
there's like dynamite
smack your horse's
flying
ass to go quicker?
I did not. My horse doesn't have an ass, just a head.
You just giddy up, woo!
I could try.
Be your own ass.
So you know, the sort of the name of the game is to try and keep your momentum. You don't have to. You could stop still and shoot people, but then if you do that, you're going to get dynamite in your ass.
Is it like? Are they? I wasn't really paying attention earlier because I was laughing and making porn jokes. But is it like set pieces that you come up to, or is it just explore the world? What's
each
the world like?
Area is like a sandbox area with kind of a path from the beginning to the end, and that path is divided in like there's certain places where you can like branch off a little bit. There's some more kind of sandboxy areas that are just huge open things. The idea is that I think they want to give you like leeway here. They
to do stupid shit?
To definitely do that, but also they want to give you like a path that you like. So if you have 4, and at some points you will have 4, 5, 6 people that are chasing you, and they want you to be able to kind of like ride by and like shoot a couple and then turn around and ride by and shoot a couple more. So they give you like quite a wide berth as far as like the area that you're actually interacting with. So there's a lot of places.
So it's like a sandbox with tunnels in between.
Kind of, yeah. Like, they're not necessarily tunnel.
No, but it's...
as far as the game, yeah, absolutely.
It's a sandbox and funnels down and then sandbox again.
Yeah, exactly. But there's like 3 different areas. But like, yes, each individual area has sandboxes, tunnel. Yeah, you're right. But each area that you're actually like fighting/writing in is quite different. Like I went like from like outside to like a very sort of mountain side sort of crappy area to a mine, an actual mine that's very close. So there's like people hiding behind rocks and shit.
Do you go inside any buildings?
There you can. There's not many because it's kind of sparse. There's a couple dotted around. There's not really anything going on.
Like
there's a trough in one occasionally. I didn't find any shops or anything.
Because that would be cool. Like if you get off your horse and you go and
go
get a beer or something.
You're always on the horse. There's no getting off the horse. But you find weapons basically. I don't think there's any like shops which would be a cool thing actually if they had done that. That would have been kind of neat.
You click the top button, you get off your horse, and you walk into the saloon and get you a gun.
I have to compliment as well the voice acting is pretty funny. Obviously, it's designed to be funny, but also it helps you. A little bit because there was an area that I was kind of a little bit stuck in, and then I kind of noticed that when I got close to this wall, they were like, "You're gonna need a pickaxe to get through here," and I had not noticed it the first time. They were telling me how to progress, and then I found a pickaxe and I went through. And if I hadn't heard that, then I wouldn't necessarily have made that correlation as quickly as I did. So there's definitely
you're not good at solving puzzles.
Yeah, I'm terrible at solving puzzles, as is proven. I have a 3-year track record at this point. But yeah, so Hopalong Badlands is $25, and honestly, like that's the only part about it that I'm not sure on yet, because even though that is a pretty damn good price, like that's not expensive, it's definitely pushing AA territory. I think 25 to 30 is AA territory. I haven't played enough of it yet, and that's my bad. I just haven't had the time. I haven't played enough of it yet to know if it's worth that much money. I will say though that I played a fuck ton of levels this morning and I didn't even make it out of the first section. So I'm assuming that each individual area is pretty damn big. And the replayability is there for fun because it is just stupid fun. I would love to see multiplayer implemented. I think that would be amazing to have all your buddies just like riding around with you. These stupid fucking
cowboy gang.
It would be amazing. Let me just throw that out there too.
You know, it'd be really fun to do. What was the bar fighting game?
Drunken bar fight.
Yeah, mix that with multiplayer of your friends.
Be great.
You've got your match made in heaven.
You got a winner. So yeah, I mean, I'm going to go back to it. I'm really pissed off that my footage got corrupted, so I may have stolen someone's footage to put up here. Don't care. Or I may re-record it before I actually put it up. But yeah, I am gonna go back to it. I'm gonna record more. I'm hoping to actually like get to the end of it. But honestly, it's not super easy either. It's not like you're gonna breeze through the whole thing, guys. Like it is like once the 6 shooters come out, it starts to get pretty difficult because you can die real fast. And if there's like 6 people shooting at you and you don't have your hobby horse game down, then you're in trouble. But no, Hopalong the Badlands, like if there was going to be one released this week for PSVR, I'm glad it was this. It's a pretty tight little game, and the price is good. And I like if you just up for a little goof around, if you like the Western vibe, if you think riding around on a fucking hobby horse thingy is or giddy up horse, whatever, sounds like a good time to you. And you like shooting things.
It sounds like a good time to people. It sounds like a dumb time.
It's dumb and good at the same time. I really liked it. So yeah, Hopalong the Badlands, $25. Go get it, or at least try it out if you got a buddy that has it or something, and see what you think about it. But yeah, I'm glad that I got to play it, and I'm actually pretty excited about it. There's
some guy somewhere named Pete that is super excited that you could ride on the Hopalong horse.
Right.
So Pete, this is for you.
This is for you, buddy. Yeah. Ride along. All right, that's our spotlight over. Moving on to the question right after this. back to the podcast, and we're going to top it off with our question of the week. And the question this week is, which PSVR game has surprised you the most by being unexpectedly great and or terrible? I'll let you pick which one you want to do.
Well, if it's great and terrible, that'd be quite a feat.
Well, great. Well, yeah. Yeah, probably should have worded that different.
That's
Anyway.
quite a feat. That's both. That's
Anyway.
2 in 1.
What you got?
There's 2 that came to mind. I actually went through my PlayStation trophies and was like, what did I play in VR? Because it's always the ones you don't remember. It's like, oh, yeah. So the first one that immediately came to mind that I was like, yeah, but I kind of knew it was going to be good was I Expect You to Die.
Yeah.
I think that is one of the best uses of VR, and it's a fun escape the room, and that's, again, puzzle games are my jam. Same thing with Keep Talking, Don't Explode, Nobody Explodes. Love that game to death, but I knew going in what I was getting into, so I wouldn't say it really surprised me. I was just very, very excited that it met my expectations. The one that did surprise me was one we actually had a key for way back when, and I don't want to think, I didn't think it was bad. I just looked at the trailer and was like, this is a generic game. This is going to be boring. It's like, it's a VR game that's cool. It's underwater. That's cool. And I'm talking about Neptune Flux. And the reason I thought it was going to be generic is I thought it was just going to be a lot of exploration underwater, which is what it partially was. And you found stuff as you did explore. But they also had puzzle solvings and the echolocation system and the building your base out. There's a lot more little things that added up to it to be like, oh, this game is actually
definitely
a lot
more than meets the eye.
Yeah, a lot more fun than I gave it credit for at the beginning. A lot more to it than I gave it credit for at the beginning. And I would say like that is probably of the games I've played that I was like had little to no expectation for that was like, oh, this is actually great. Because most of the time when you see these games, like I'm very much a quality guy. Like the games I play are like Star Trek, Werewolves Within, which Werewolves was a lot of fun as well. But again, I knew Ubisoft was going to do an all right job with it. But Neptune Flux was the one game that's like, I had no expectation, but I realized by the time I'd finished it that I enjoyed my time in it. I've actually gone back into it a couple times. Couldn't solve puzzles, so I gave up because I was just too dumb.
They're pretty hard.
Yeah, I just gave up.
That's kind of the reason why
I got to the submarine and
I
gave
really
up.
liked it. I did. No, I'm with you on that. I got to play that too. And for those of you that don't really know what it is, basically you're in a little submersible. It's probably the best feeling submersible that there is in VR, for PSVR anyway, right now. If you like,
Time Machine was pretty good too.
Time Machine
when it comes to travel,
pretty damn good.
But there's other things I didn't like about Time Machine.
Neptune was just, it felt a bit zippier. Like you felt like you had better control over it.
To me, Neptune felt more like a exploration game versus Time Machine felt like this is more, you go point A, point B, point C, like here's what you're doing next, versus this was like, here's the ocean, you go too far, you might run out of power.
Yeah.
So careful.
It definitely was.
And then you run into like a statue. That was, I remember the first time going, it's like, what is that? Because you have this like weird echo sonic thing that you can see.
And they had the kind of the right balance of being in a murky ocean too, where like you can't quite see everything,
but you can see enough
see some stuff,
like
and
to
you
go
use your
towards it.
floodlights and everything. And yeah, I'm with you on that. Actually, that was a good call out. Neptune. I forgot that game existed actually.
Yeah, I did too. Until I literally was going through my trophy list, like what did I play that? Because I know because that happens in the moment, and it's kind of a byproduct of doing this show. Is like we tend to just move on to the next one pretty quickly.
We have to. Yeah. There's too many. Yeah. No, but yeah, it is nice to supplement as well, which is why we're doing this question. Really,
I think the one that disappointed me the most, and it's not because the game is bad. It's just because I can't play it without getting sick. Is there's 2 Rigs. I was super excited for Rigs, but I've not gone back and played since I've gotten more VR legs.
Did almost make me lose my lunch the first time I played it, but I feel like that was just because it was early days for me.
Trackmania Turbo is another one I really liked without realizing it, but
that's
I
not
had
full
a feeling,
VR though.
No, I had a feeling I'd like it. The other one is Skyrim to me, because everybody hypes up Skyrim, and as somebody who's never played Skyrim, that was my first like true experience in it. Fighting the dragon was terrifying. Like that was cool. But I just can't play it because I get too, like, walking up and down stairs makes me sick. Even teleporting up and down stairs made me sick. And there's just something about that game that
kind of goes back to the comments that we talked about in the news section where, like, they're talking about ironing out those kinks for people that are still kind of motion sick.
Yeah, like, I was fine walking around the world, but as soon as I started going up an incline, I was like, oh, God.
It's a weird contingent where there's, like, some people just get immune to it real fast, like I did, and other people are still
like Bertrand has to be careful. I know he's got a lot of motion sickness when he plays games, so he always asks me what I think, because me and him are very similar. Because I was like, have guts of steel
at this point.
Yeah. Like for me though, like that's why I love the same game. That's why I love like Star Trek and things that are seated, because it's not as much going on. But
so none of this.
None of that. Well, that actually, I mean, that wouldn't be too
You would
bad.
actually really enjoy that game.
But yeah, I would have to say the surprises were Neptune Flux when it comes to like surprisingly good, and then again, I don't want to say surprisingly bad, but just upsetting because I couldn't play it was Skyrim VR.
Yeah.
And also the controls, because I wanted to use the moves, and the controls using the moves are not fun.
I have a couple for good and one for bad. My good ones, I'd say Polybius, absolutely hands down. Polybius, when I bought it,
Fucking Tucker in that game.
yeah, that dude was legendary in that game. So for Polybius, it was a game that I looked at it. I had no idea what it was about, but I was in this kind of phase of just buying every PSVR game ever.
Surprise.
And then it also, I think it ended up in like a Nine Inch Nails video, and that's my favorite band. So I was just like, well, it was my favorite band. It's still probably my favorite band. And so I was just kind of like even more intrigued by it, and I was like, man, the visuals on this thing are fucking insane. Like, and I really wanted to try and get into it, and then I kind of left it for a couple weeks, and I never even picked it up and tried it. And then eventually one day I put the headset on and I got into it, and oh my fucking god, does that game blow your mind, man. It's like, and I've stopped doing drugs now in my old age, but if I did, then I would definitely want to play that game. It is so crazy. Psychedelic visuals, the gunplay is great, like the actual like gameplay mechanics are good when you start getting into the jumping and everything. The level design is amazing. We did our 24-hour stream, and Tucker was there with us, and Tucker played a whole lot of that
an hour
game.
and a half.
Yeah, like way too much of that game, to the point where he was like just his bug-eyed when he came out of the headset. But Polybius is one that easily flew under so many people's radars, and I really recommend you going back and checking that out if you haven't already. It is, to be sure, one of the most unique experiences I've ever had in VR, hands down. Another one or two that I thought of, Headmaster. Headmaster had zero expectations going in.
And that's on no, that's the standalone one. That's not PSVR World. That's
yeah, that's standalone.
Danger Ball is what I was thinking
Danger Ball. Danger Ball is great too.
Yeah.
But no, but Headmaster, like, you look at the box art for it, you hear it's a game about heading a football, you think this isn't going to be very good at all. Yeah. And but no, that game is fucking stellar, man. Like we
had the competition on our channel.
We did. It was a good time.
I think you beat me.
No, you won.
Did I win? Cool.
Yeah.
I'm glad I remember that.
Did I win? Cool. So no, it was really fun. Like the level design is incredible. Like everything about that game was just stellar, and it surprised the hell out of me. Such a simple concept as well. Like you didn't even have to use a controller. You could just stare at shit, and like it would like. And I love that they did that. Like they didn't make you use a controller just to go to select next or whatever. They're just like, no, stare at it long enough and it'll just go.
Oh, dude. It does the connect thing where like if you put your hand out, it does the circle. And
yeah, exactly. So smart. Solace Project is the last one of the surprising ones. Solace Project for me was just kind of like getting into it. You're on a space world somewhere, and you're a space guy, and you do space things. And I was just like, all right,
put it on the box.
Yeah, put it on the box. And so the first part of the Solace Project that blew my mind, and I think it's the same for everyone that's played it, is like once you get over, like, because it was one of the first games to use dual moves for free motion, which they did amazingly well, and no one copied them after, which is insane because they did it really well. Once you make it through a little bit of the first part of the game, there's one scene where the music suddenly changes and the sky darkens, and then a fucking tornado comes out of the ocean heading directly for you. And you hear these ominous like bells in the background and stuff, and you're like, oh my god, it is terrifying. But so exciting at the same time, because you're just like, I have to run, right? Can it get me? Or is it just out there? And you see it coming closer, and then you're like, oh shit, I better run. And then like it follows you all the way up onto the beach, all the way up into this little cave. And if you're not in that cave by the time that it gets there, you're fucked. So like that was just like this kind of amazing like dynamic weather moment that I was just like, oh my god, like this was just it blew my mind, and I thought that was wonderful. And there's a lot more than that as well. There's there was like an asteroid show, like a light show going on, asteroids hitting each other and stuff in the sky. Some really cool little touches to that game. Really, really cool. As far as disappointed, hands down, Special Delivery. Special Delivery, the single worst VR game that I've ever played.
It even supported the move. Or not the move, the aim.
The aim. I know. That's why I bought it. This supported the aim. It was so garbage. I don't know what the fuck they were thinking. I also don't know like why there's no explanation as to why you are seemingly playing the same level over and over and over and over again. I know someone told me there's other levels.
Yeah.
I don't know how you get to them. Yep. And I should probably figure that out after playing it for like, we played it for an hour and a half, 2 hours, and we were still on the same level. It was so bad. Like the implementation of like everything about that game was terrible. So yeah, I would say, as far as like something I was kind of hyped about, because to me I was like, Paperboy VR, fucking with an aim controller, I'm in, And it was terrible, just so bad. So avoid special delivery at all costs. But Solid's Project, Headmaster, Polybius, all very, very underrated gems that to look at them, you wouldn't really think much about it. They're all kind of basic looking, but each one had a special moment for me playing it. So those
And
were
Neptune Flux.
And Neptune Flux for you. And what was your avoid again? Oh,
It was Skyrim. It's not a
Skyrim
void.
if you have motion sickness.
It was, yeah, it wasn't, again, I know I'm going to get shit for saying Skyrim was my disappointment or was terrible. It wasn't terrible. It was just,
It's a solid
I
title.
couldn't play it.
You just couldn't play it. So, it's
So if you have motion sickness, don't pick that game up or
aware.
tell me settings that you use.
Buyers beware.
Because I've tried to go back to it a couple times and now it's gotten to the point where I'm like, I'm never going to play this game. I spent $60 for a game I can't play physically. The other thing I would say is Moss having a snake because I have a snake phobia. If it didn't have a snake, I'm sure, like you said, I would love that game. But
You would.
there's a snake at the
Hopefully,
end.
Chapter 2 doesn't have a snake.
Yeah.
All right, that's our show. That is Codename Morpheus, episode 34. Hopefully,
look that up.
Huh?
Did you have to look that
I
up?
did.
30.
So hopefully you had fun this week. We did. Remember at the top of the show we said these are going to be like every 2 weeks now instead of every 1 week. Please don't hate us. It's a decision that we made as a channel, which means that we will be able to bring you actual PSVR reviews again and gameplay again. Sit down and play these games, stream
and
these
maybe
games.
and maybe some more like us together games against each other.
You can, you know.
I loved
Hopalong.
doing. I know you didn't like it 'cause you sucked at it, but I loved when we did the Keep Talking Nobody Explodes. That was a lot of fun.
I don't mind being in the
I told you all the shit
headset.
to do.
I just
they just
couldn't
got
do
way
the other
more.
stuff.
They just got way more complicated.
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
like, fuck.
I'm so bad at reading those.
Yeah.
Like I was trying to figure out what a fucking Venn diagram was. Like I was having a very tough time with it. I'm just.
We
stupid.
still have. I saw it over there earlier. We still have the
manual's still there.
The
Yeah,
fusel
in
manual
case
still
we
over
ever
there.
want to pick it out again. So again, much love to everybody that tunes in. Recently, a few people posted on that thread that you were talking about like channels that do PSVR stuff that are maybe like underrated or that are not relentlessly positive about everything. We definitely fit that bill, and we hope that the content that we provide is good and that you guys dig it. You know what would be really cool is if you guys let us know. Like sometimes it feels like you're just shouting at a brick wall. You ever get that feeling? We every time we get a comment, and we have so many people that are super generous and they comment and they're so nice and kind and they give us like feedback or they have suggestions or like I know Jotaku X is always here and he's always commenting, and that dude, I love that dude. Dave always shows up and posts some stuff. We have like times where everyone is just super generous with their comments and their vibes and their feelings. It would be the most special thing in the world if you would just take 2 seconds out of your day just to write a comment, even if it's just nice job or you suck. I don't care. I don't care what the comment is. Maybe share it with your friends if they, if they're into PSVR, or if you want to try and convince them to get it, show them the show with all the stuff on display. But yeah, that's it. Any last words from you?
No.
Great. All right. Thank you so much for watching. And as always, welcome to the second level. Bye.
It ain't no game, but they saying welcome to the second level.